because Ludwig Feuerbach opposed the possibility of personal immortality. In his 1830 publication Thoughts on Death and Immortality, he suffered religious and political persecution. He lost his position as a university lecturer and was unable to obtain an academic post at any German university. Starting in 1837, he lived secluded in a village in Thuringia. He wrote that those who believe what others believe, and teach and think what others teach and think, such individuals have no need to live a life of seclusion. On the contrary, those who take their own path, even breaking with the entire world of religious faith, have this need. Feuerbach's long period of solitude fostered independent thinking, but it also caused him to lag behind the progress of the times and the masses. He admitted this. People say I have not written much that ought to have been written. This is undeniable. But to write what ought to be written requires much that ought to be had. I lack this. Feuerbach continued to actively contribute to Arnold Ruge's Hallisch Yearbook. In his 1839 critique of Hegelian philosophy, he formally turned to materialism for the first time, arguing that ideas do not determine reality. On the contrary, ideas are determined by concrete reality. This overturned Hegelian philosophy. In the late summer of 1841, his book The Essence of Christianity, published by Otto Wigand, applied materialism to religion. On February 16, he published remarks on the essence of Christianity in the Deutsche Jarpscher. The young Hegelians failed to see the main characteristic and significance of the essence of Christianity. They consistently maintained that progress could be achieved by developing Hegel's principles more thoroughly. In the essence of Christianity, they saw the correct interpretation of Hegel's doctrine, not its overthrow and transformation. Feuerbach pointed out that his philosophy was not an explanation of Hegelian philosophy. On the contrary, it arose precisely as the antithesis of Hegel's doctrine. It completely transformed Hegelian doctrine and idealism. In 1842, Feuerbach wrote preliminary theses for the reform of philosophy. He asserted, the secret of theology is anthropology, and the secret of speculative philosophy is theology. Spinoza is the true founder of modern philosophy, Schelling is its restorer, and Hegel is its completer. People ceased believing in Hegelian philosophy because within it, nature occupies a subordinate position, a status that does not match its increasingly important significance in human life. Feuerbach proposed his famous thesis for turning Hegelian philosophy upside down. We need only always make the predicate the subject, and the subject the object and principle, that is, we need only turn speculative philosophy upside down to obtain the undisguised, pure truth. This Feuerbachian formula became the favorite formula used by Marx and Engels in their writings. For many years afterward, what Feuerbach meant was that Hegelian philosophy treated the absolute idea as the essence of the world, while viewing real existing humans and nature merely as the predicate or derivative of the absolute idea. He criticized Bruno Bauer for merely replacing Hegel's absolute idea with self-consciousness. Feuerbach's materialism was not thorough. His studies of history and society were not deep, and his understanding remained idealistic. In the preliminary theses, he wrote that man is all in all to the state. The state is the concrete totality of humanity. Within the state, man's essential qualities and activities become objectified as particular social estates, but they return to unity in the person of the head of state. The head of state represents all estates indifferently. This still showed residues of idealistic notions of the state, especially Hegelian ideas. Feuerbach saw the return of man to his true essence and progress towards love-based humanism as the key to changing history. Engels later commented that for Feuerbach, love was everywhere an all-creating miracle-working God. Moses Hess and Mikhail Bakunin readily absorbed this kind of humanism into their own anarchistic communism. In August, in Ruge's essay, Hegel's Philosophy of Right and Modern Politics, he immediately applied Feuerbach's new philosophy. He criticized Hegel for viewing state institutions as transhistorical, abstract entities possessing absolute value, reducing historical facts to concepts, and consequently turning history into logic.